We've all seen the headlines, right? Another company gets hacked, they pay a massive fine, and we move on. It's so easy to think of a data breach as a single, isolated event. But what if that's not the end of the story? What if it's just the very beginning?
So let's ask the big question. What is the true cost of a data breach? If it's not just about that initial financial hit, what are we all missing? Well, as we're about to see, the answer is a whole lot more complex and way more far-reaching than you probably think.
Instead of a big explosion, I want you to picture a stone being dropped into a perfectly still pond. That first splash, that's just the start. It's the ripples, the ones that expand outwards, getting bigger and bigger, that cause the real, lasting damage. And today, we're going to follow those ripples.
Okay, let's dive in with that first, most obvious ripple, the direct financial hit. This is what most of the headlines focus on, but you know what? Even this is way more complicated than it looks on the surface.
See, this isn't just about adding up some lost sales. Figuring out the real economic loss is like a full-on forensic accounting investigation. You have to gather every single piece of paper, pinpoint the exact period of the loss, from the second the systems went down to the moment they came back online, and then you have to figure out a baseline of what the company should have been earning.
And this is where it gets really interesting. We all kind of get accounting gross profit from a regular financial statement, right? But insured gross profit, that is a completely different animal. It's this super specialized calculation that forensic accountants use, and it doesn't deduct ongoing costs like rent or salaries. This one little difference just goes to show you how much specialized knowledge you need to even begin to grasp the real financial damage.
All right, let's follow this out to the second ripple. We're moving beyond the hard numbers now into something you can't always put on a spreadsheet, but is often so much more devastating: the hit to a company's reputation.
And nothing illustrates this better than a tale of two breaches. On one side, you've got Target back in 2013. They got hit, and you know what they did? They were transparent. They told the public pretty quickly for the time, and immediately explained how they were beefing up security. Then, you've got Uber. Their response was the total opposite. They found out about their breach, and instead of telling anyone, they paid the hackers $100,000 to keep it quiet, and then waited over a year to come clean.
Now just look at the difference in the fallout. Target's reputation took a massive hit, no question, down almost 55%. Ouch. But because they were upfront about it and had a really loyal customer base, they were able to rebuild that trust. Over the next 4 years, public perception actually shot up by 84%. It was a tough road, for sure, but they recovered.
And then there's Uber. Their choice to cover it up was absolutely catastrophic for public trust. In the year they finally admitted what happened, their consumer perception didn't just drop, it plummeted by over 141%. It just goes to show how you handle the crisis can be just as damaging as the crisis itself.
And this isn't just about feelings, you know? This hits the bottom line. A staggering 80% of consumers, that's 4 out of every 5 of us, will just walk away from a business if their personal information gets compromised. The cost of losing trust is literally the cost of losing your customers.
But here's a really fascinating, kind of weird twist in the story. Because these breaches are happening all the time now, some experts are saying we're suffering from data breach fatigue. The constant stream of bad news might be making us all feel a bit powerless, which can lead to, well, apathy. And that's a dangerous trend, because if the public stops caring, the pressure on companies to actually get better might start to fade.
This brings us to the third ripple. And honestly, this is where things get truly terrifying. This is where the impact of one single breach doesn't just hurt one company, but can cascade outwards, threatening the very systems our entire society depends on to function.
We're talking about something called critical national infrastructure, or CNI. Think about the power grid, our transportation networks, banking systems, healthcare, the backbone of our daily lives. And in our super connected world, that backbone is more vulnerable than ever before.
So how could this actually play out? Let's walk through a pretty simple and frankly very plausible scenario. It all starts with something small, something we see more of every single day, an internet-connected EV charger. A hacker finds one little vulnerability, and just like that, they're in.
But here's the thing, that charger isn't just sitting there by itself. It's connected to a network, which is connected to the bigger power grid. So the hacker uses that first little foothold to move sideways, spreading through the whole interconnected system. Suddenly, the attack isn't about one car charger anymore. It's about disrupting the flow of energy to everyone.
And that's where you get the final result, a cascading failure. A single tiny breach snowballs into a massive citywide blackout.
I mean, this isn't a plot from some movie. It is a very real systemic risk that experts are scrambling to prevent. One vulnerability can literally spark a widespread physical crisis.
Which brings us to our fourth and final ripple. And this one makes it personal. For years and years, we've thought of cybersecurity failures as a corporate problem, right? The company messes up, the company pays the price. Well, that's not the case anymore.
The whole game has changed, and a huge reason for this is a piece of legislation from the European Union called the NIS2 Directive. Trust me, this is not just another boring regulation. It's a seismic shift in how we look at accountability for cybersecurity, because it moves the responsibility from the boardroom.
And just look at how wide the net is cast here. It covers essential and important entities, and that includes everything from energy and banking all the way to manufacturing, digital providers, even research institutions. Basically, if you operate in the EU in one of these sectors, this is now your reality. Okay, so what does this super dense legalese, incapacity to perform managerial functions, what does that actually mean? It means that if your company has a major cybersecurity failure, regulators can now temporarily ban senior executives from doing their jobs. Think about that. A data breach can now get you, personally, fired and barred from management. The stakes have never been higher.
So, as we've seen, the true cost of a data breach is so much more than just money. It's a cascade, a ripple effect of financial ruin, reputational collapse, systemic failure, and now even personal liability. Which really just leaves us with one final critical question to think about. When the breach finally hits, are you really ready for all the ripples?